Imagine you're standing in Lisbon, staring out at the vast Atlantic Ocean. You are on the edge of Europe. Now turn around and look east towards Spain. Logic tells us that the people of Portugal and Spain should be siblings. They share the same peninsula. They share the same scorching sun, the same rugged mountains, and a tangled history of Roman legions and Moorish caliphs. They share over 1,200 kilometers of border, one of the oldest in the world. But logic is wrong. When scientists cracked the genetic code of the Iberian Peninsula, they found a glitch in the map, a biological paradox that shouldn't exist. Did you know that a person native to Lisbon is often genetically closer to someone in Ireland or Western France than to their own neighbors in Barcelona? It sounds like a geographical error. How can two nations locked together on the same piece of land for millennia be so distinct under the skin? While Spain is a complex mosaic of Mediterranean and continental influences, Portugal has evolved as a genetic island. For nearly 1,000 years, something or someone turned this strip of land into a biological fortress. This isn't just a story about borders, it's a story about ancient Ice Age refugees, a forgotten Germanic kingdom, and a 900-year-old wall that filtered the DNA of millions. Today, we are cracking the code. Why are the Portuguese and Spanish so different, and what ancient secret is hidden in the blood of the Atlantic coast? To understand this genetic divergence, we have to stop looking at Portugal and Spain as one block called Iberia. We need to look at them as two completely different front doors to the European continent. Spain is the Mediterranean gate. For thousands of years, the eastern and southern coasts of Spain were the landing pads for the ancient world's greatest superpowers: the Greeks, the Venetians, the Carthaginians, and the Romans. They all sailed the calm, warm waters of the Mediterranean and landed on Spanish shores. They brought trade, they brought culture, and crucially, they brought their DNA. This created a rich, diverse genetic landscape in Spain that leans heavily toward the east and the Mediterranean basin. Portugal, however, is the Atlantic fortress. The rough, dangerous waters of the Atlantic Ocean weren't a highway for ancient traders, they were a barrier. While Spain was mixing with the Mediterranean world, Portugal was looking north. This story begins long before Rome. We have to go back 20,000 years to the last glacial maximum, the peak of the Ice Age. Europe was freezing. Massive ice sheets covered the north. Humanity was pushed to the brink. But the western edge of Iberia, modern-day Portugal, remained habitable. It became a sanctuary. This region served as a refuge area for Paleolithic hunter-gatherers. As the world finally warmed and the ice retreated, these pioneers didn't move east into Spain, they moved north, hugging the coastline. They migrated up to Brittany and crossed the land bridges into the British Isles. This is the origin of what scientists call the Atlantic Facade. It explains the spooky connection between the Portuguese and the Irish. They are descendants of the same Ice Age family who survived the freeze together on the coast. While central and eastern Spain absorbed constant waves of migration from the European continent and the Mediterranean basin, the western edge, Portugal, remained a stronghold for these ancient lineages. Portugal didn't just grow out of the land, it grew out of the sea. And as we move forward in time, we will see that this isolation didn't just preserve ancient DNA, it attracted a completely different kind of invader. When the Roman Empire collapsed in the 5th century, chaos engulfed Europe. The Iberian Peninsula was no exception. Germanic tribes from the dark forests of the north flooded in, looking for land and power. Most history books will tell you about the Visigoths. They were the superpowers of the era. They marched through Spain, established a massive kingdom, and set up their capital in Toledo. But history often forgets the other tribe, a smaller, more concentrated group that claimed the rainy, green corner of the northwest, the Suebi. While the Visigoths in Spain were a ruling elite, constantly moving, fighting, and managing a massive territory, the Suebi did something different. They settled down. They established the Kingdom of the Suebi, one of the first stable sub-Roman kingdoms in Western Europe. Their capital was Braga in northern Portugal. For over 170 years, this kingdom was a world apart from the rest of Spain. And this separation wasn't just political, it became biological. The Suebi left a permanent mark. If you take a DNA test in northern Portugal today, you might find a surprising spike in Scandinavian or Central European markers. These aren't just random data points, they are the genetic ghosts of those Suebi families who arrived 1,500 years ago and never left. This created a specific Germanic signature in the Portuguese gene pool that is distinct from the broader, more diluted Visigothic influence found across Spain. So while Spain was becoming a melting pot of Mediterranean and Visigothic rule, Portugal was solidifying its identity as a unique Atlantic Germanic hybrid. But the Germanic tribes were just the beginning. The biggest twist in the Iberian DNA story comes from the south. In 711 AD, the Moors crossed the Strait of Gibraltar. Within years, they conquered almost the entire peninsula. Both Portugal and Spain lived under Islamic rule for centuries. You would expect them to have the same amount of North African DNA, right? Or perhaps Spain should have more, since the Moors held on to Granada until 1492. Here is the paradox that baffles many people. Genetic studies consistently show that North African ancestry is often higher in Portugal than in Spain. In regions like Alentejo and Algarve, North African markers can reach frequencies of 10 to 15%. In Spain, outside of specific pockets, that number is often much lower. How is this possible? If Spain was ruled by the Moors for longer, why does Portugal carry more of their DNA? The answer lies in the violence of the exit. It lies in the Reconquista. When the Spanish kingdoms of Castile and Aragon took back their land, they were often ruthless. The end of the Reconquista in Spain was marked by the Inquisition, forced conversions, and eventually the mass expulsion of the Moriscos. Spain effectively scrubbed much of its North African population from the gene pool through force and exile. Portugal was different. The Portuguese Reconquista finished much earlier, and it was generally different. Instead of total replacement or mass expulsion, there was substantial integration. The established Moorish communities in the south were absorbed into the population over centuries. They converted, they married, and they stayed. So while Spain purged its history, Portugal absorbed it. The Moors didn't just rule Portugal, they became part of its genetic fabric. Geography is destiny, but politics is the architect. While we talk about mountains and oceans, the most powerful force shaping Portuguese DNA was a line drawn on a map in the 12th century. In 1139, Portugal established its independence. By 1249, it had conquered the Algarve and established its modern continental borders. Think about that. For nearly 900 years, while the rest of Europe was redrawing its maps every few decades, Portugal remained Portugal. It is the oldest nation-state in Europe with stable borders. This stability created a phenomenon known as genetic drift. For 9 centuries, the Portuguese became a tighter genetic family. They married within their borders. They looked outward to the Atlantic for trade and exploration, rather than inward to the Spanish Meseta. The border, a raya, wasn't just a political line, it acted as a biological filter. It stopped the later waves of Mediterranean and continental migration that continued to shape Spain. It preserved that ancient Atlantic signature we talked about earlier. Portugal didn't just evolve separately, it effectively paused its genetic integration with the rest of Iberia nearly a millennium ago. So let's look at the final scoreboard. When scientists compare the DNA of a random person from Lisbon against a random person from Madrid, the differences are statistically clear. 1. Portugal clusters with the Atlantic populations like Ireland and Western France, while Spain clusters with the Mediterranean. 2. Portugal carries a higher, more integrated percentage of North African DNA due to a different kind of Reconquista. 3. Portugal has the concentrated legacy of the Germanic Suebi in the north, while Spain has the broader Visigothic footprint. So, is Portugal just a small Spain? Absolutely not. Genetically speaking, Portugal is an island that happens to be attached to a peninsula. It is a unique genetic capsule that preserves the history of Ice Age pioneers and seafaring explorers. The next time you look at a map of the Iberian Peninsula, remember, the border isn't just ink on paper, it is written in the blood of 10 million people. What do you think? Does geography define who we are, or is history the true author of our DNA? If you want to dive deeper into the genetic secrets of Europe, check out our video on the Irish DNA paradox. You'll be surprised how closely related they are to the Portuguese. I'm Thomas, and this is Lost Origins. Hit like, subscribe, and stay curious.